chosen.
We have put together, I think, the most extensive and inclusive voter fraud organization in the history of American politics.
Hello, reality researchers. So this is continuing on the previous video topic of alleged Scytl server raid in Germany. Now at this point, Gina Haspel, CIA director, has been implicated in the raid itself. A simple Twitter search of Gina Haspel's name will yield this result. A person reports, Deep State CIA Director Gina Haspel under Obama was arrested and taken to trial at Gitmo military prison for armed clashes with US DoD Special Forces over seizure of fraud voting software. She was reportedly injured as gunfights with the US Army on the spot. All of the details with Gina are not clear at this point, as there may be a coordinated media blackout. Now, yesterday, Texas Godmother 2.0 basically found some evidence to suggest that Gina Haspel may have died. This tweet does not mention it directly in the phone screen cap, but just talks about her possibly being taken to Gitmo for a video confession. So then today, Tex posts an image of a Wikipedia article, really a Wikipedia update on Gina, that suggests Gina Haspel died today, December 1st, 2020. She analyzed a Wikipedia screen clipping which determined that the date of death was listed as November 30th, which is yesterday. Now, just to focus on the real topic at hand, I'll play a clip from this video shared to us by Heartwords3. This individual, named Simon Parks, claims to be associated with British intelligence.
Don't know. Arizona is the home of the Q movement, and it's also the home of the 503rd Battalion. And if you're saying, what's the 503rd Battalion? It's the Krakens. So when Sidney Powell was referring to unleash the Kraken, she was actually referring to the 503rd Battalion, which is in Arizona. Alpha, Bravo and Charlie companies are actually based there. So I've been offered a job in Arizona. Fingers crossed we can get out there. One is that the CIA director
here, Simon Parks provides details on the Germany raid.
Was shot and killed. I actually said that, if you remember, that a leading manager, station manager, was wounded. I couldn't at that time, I wasn't authorized, shall we say, at that time to tell you who that was. But it's absolutely true that the CIA director was in the Frankfurt facility. What on earth was the head of the CIA doing off American soil in a building containing Dominion servers? And I can tell you that they were trying to shred every document, remove everything. But the good guys, that's the 305 Battalion and other units as well, were totally aware that the CIA director was there, and the raid was done deliberately to catch that person red-handed. The reason that 5 American patriots were killed in the operation was because the bodyguard around the CIA director basically fought. Everybody else just sort of gave up, but the bodyguard around the director fought, and that's what occurred. So there are 2 versions now, that she's dead, or she's, went to Guantanamo Bay.
So now I'm reading from this article on celebritydeaths.com, attempting to debunk the notion that Haspel passed away. Mike Rothschild, likely member of the Illuminati outer orbit, states that the latest QAnon micro-rumor is that CIA Director Gina Haspel was found deceased as a result of a shootout in Frankfurt between the agency and Special Forces operators over Dominion servers. Please note that literally none of this happened. So he was out at 2:46 p.m. yesterday trying to dispel the rumor. Why he would be so interested in dispelling rumor speaks volumes in itself as far as the legitimacy of the rumor. Now, we're going to return to the Gina Haspel rumors, but first I want to take you to this video of Army Colonel Phil Waldron. This particular expert witness appeared at the Arizona hearing that occurred yesterday, November 30th. He provides additional perspective on the alleged raid.
Good afternoon, Senator, Colonel, and gentlemen, ladies. My name is Phil Waldron. I'm a retired Army Colonel, 30 years. Spent the first half of my career, just like Colonel Mastriano here as a cavalry officer conducting armed reconnaissance, counter-reconnaissance. Last half of my career spent in information warfare as a psychological operations officer and information operations officer, conducted computer network operations, electronic warfare, special electronic warfare, deception, counter-deception, and OPSEC, and a couple other specialties.
So what you had just seen was Phil Waldron in Pennsylvania. During that hearing, he was able to introduce himself. During the Arizona hearing, however, he did not introduce himself. I will now play the relevant portion referring to Seidl. The relevant segment you're about to hear is found on the NTD channel, video title, Trump lawyers and members of Arizona state legislature hold hearing election integrity. Timestamp is 1 hour, 23 minutes, 48 seconds.
Can you tell if some of those communications went outside the United States?
We did observe packet traffic that were going from the U.S. Now, we don't know if it was specifically Dominion traffic going, but to a server in Frankfurt.
In Frankfurt, Germany.
Yeah.
What's in Frankfurt, Germany that would be of interest?
Well, we looked prior to the election. One of our white hat hackers, and found that there was traffic in a Scytl server. Scytl is one of the companies, and I can show you the. We mentioned before the interconnectedness. Not that one. The interconnectedness of these companies. So this is sort of a historical link to all the voting companies, and we got Smartmatic in the middle. It's a licensor to Dominion voting systems. Seidl runs election night reporting through SOE software and Clarity Elections over here. And Clarity is if you click up on a lot of the county and Secretary of State voting systems, it'll pop up as property of Clarity Elections. So it doesn't really belong to the counties. It doesn't really belong to you. It really belongs to Clarity Elections.
Just to make it simple, a Dominion machine that I go in and vote, it is susceptible to easily having that vote changed from the outside, or by them in particular.
By an authorized user or an unauthorized user.
So on that note, people take to Twitter. We have President-elect Wild Bill here, WMM288. Breaking: Special Cyber Warfare Military Commander testifies that Dominion machines were connected to internet and server traffic for Maricopa County, that's Arizona. Machines were sending packets of information to and from servers in Frankfurt, Germany. Huge. I'm now on page 53 of Sidney Powell's lawsuit, which she exclaimed as being the Kraken for number 111. I'll read that to you. An analysis of the Dominion software system by a former U.S. military intelligence expert concludes that the system and software have been accessible and were certainly compromised by rogue actors such as Iran and China. By using servers and employees connected with rogue actors and hostile foreign influences combined with numerous easily discoverable leaked credentials, Dominion neglectfully allowed foreign adversaries to access data and intentionally provided access to their infrastructure in order to monitor and manipulate elections, including the most recent one in 2020. And it says see Exhibit 7. All right, and here's former Director of Cybersecurity Infrastructure, Chris Krebs, defending himself in 60 Minutes, saying that all votes in U.S. are counted in U.S., not in foreign countries.
Let me ask for your reaction to some of the vote fraud that the president and his team have been alleging. Votes tabulated in foreign countries.
So all votes in the United States of America are counted in the United States of America. I don't understand this claim. All votes in the United States of America are counted in the United States of America, period.
Voting machines corrupted by mysterious actors in Venezuela.
So again, there's no evidence that any machine that I'm aware of has been manipulated by a foreign power.
All right, and so there's the opposition. On Twitter, I was linked to this NIST.gov article. I'll show it to you. This is Voter Action, dated July 6, 2010. So this is a letter to the Technical Guidelines Development Committee covering the discussion of remote electronic UOCA-VA voting. Attorney Sidney Powell had highlighted on Twitter this particular passage on page 7. Dominion, now the largest and second largest voting system company, is foreign controlled and depends upon secret source code created and owned by Smartmatic, a foreign controlled company with ties to Venezuelan government led by Hugo Chavez. Footnotes for this particular file are pretty interesting. We have footnote 25, press release, Dominion Voting Systems Corporation acquires assets of Sequoia Voting Systems transaction, further expands Dominion's geographic reach. Privately held Canadian voting system company Dominion in the past few weeks has purchased Diebold Voting Systems from ES&S and Sequoia Voting Systems. Again, this 2010 document establishes a history connecting these different companies. It'll be important to refer to dated documents as a lot of more current publications of the interconnections of these organizations is being rapidly scrubbed off the internet. So we have this statement, noted by Illuminate Dark 8 and retweeted by Woke Wonderland. General McCurney says Kraken is the 305th Military Intelligence Battalion. General McCurney said today that Powell's Kraken refers to a nickname for that, and that this Kraken is based out of Arizona. And I linked through to this Wikipedia page. The 305th Military Intelligence Battalion is part of the United States Army's 111th Military Intelligence Brigade located in Fort Huasca, Arizona. It consists of 3 companies, and the seal that I mentioned in a previous video is that seal of the 111th Military Brigade. It's a phoenix in a background that includes what looks like sun rays and a blue bottom. This Twitter user notes, Moab, the Kraken is General Flynn. He commanded the 111th Military Intelligence Brigade for the U.S. Army at Fort Huasca, Arizona. Insignia equals a Kraken. 305th Military Intelligence Battalion is located in Fort Huasca, Arizona. Michigan witness for Sidney Powell, coincidence? This appears to me to be more of a sun than a Kraken, and it would appropriately be a sun given that it's for an organization in Arizona, which is a very sunny state. I played to you a clip from the Arizona hearing. Mayor Giuliani's expert witness, Colonel Waldron, had appeared at a previous Pennsylvania hearing and then also flew to this Arizona hearing. Since he claimed his background is in military intelligence and acts as a witness to the alleged Scytl raid in Frankfurt, Germany, he is in a sense ushering us into understanding of the details of an alleged white hat military operation to attempt to save the United States. And here's an audio recording of General McCurney stating what he believes the Kraken to be. I would presume he's more credible given that he is a general.
So 96,000 votes have got to come off the roll, and she's working that out. In addition, she also found out that through the Kraken, and the Kraken is the 305th Military Intelligence Battalion, who works these kind of problems, that we have Chinese and Iranian involvement.
Wow.
Very startling. That's the first I've heard it in the counting process.
And yes, he also invokes the possibility of foreign interference in the election. So yes, at this point we have some military brass corroborating the votes going overseas to Seidl server theory. So because we have some individuals willing to put the reputation on the line to corroborate that theory about a server with US votes existing in Frankfurt, Germany, we also have to take more seriously this possibility of the electoral map shown on AON News being correct, which had President Trump with 410 electoral votes, as determined by the raw tabulated data from the machines. One confusing aspect of all of this is the fact that Dominion machines are not in all of the states. Here's a map showing the states in which they are present. So how would all the vote tabulations from the different states be able to produce a map in a different country when the data that goes to produce that map only comes from machines in select states? The answer to that question would have to rest in the notion that the Dominion machines are somehow integrated with other brands of machines in different states, and that the information in that integration goes to Germany, or that these other separate machines transmit information to Seidl in Germany independently from the Dominion machines. Here is a map showing the interconnection of Dominion and Smartmatic with other individuals and companies. You can pause this video to take a closer look at this. This was the map that I believe was shown earlier in the Arizona presentation with Colonel Waldron. Now back to what's going on with Gina Haspel. This individual I showed you earlier, Simon Parks, he'll give his theory as far as what really became of her.
What occurred So there are two versions now, that she's dead, or she's, went to Guantanamo Bay. What I want to tell you is that she's not dead. That's a cover story. I don't think I'm going to be in trouble for telling you that. That's the truth. That's a cover story placed up, a bit like Jeffrey Epstein, really. What happened was that when she was wounded, not severely, taken to Guantanamo Bay, but en route to Guantanamo Bay, she decided that she wanted to work for the good guys, and she literally sang like a canary. That's how it's been told to me. Those are the words used. In other words, that she's given all of the information she has to the white hats. She didn't even get to Guantanamo Bay. The airplane turned back, and the deal that's been cut is that she will be quietly forgotten, quietly removed, new name, new details, etc., etc. That's not to say at some future date, one side or the other might change their mind on that. But at the moment, that is the deal that's been done. That just leaves the FBI. And I think that the FBI will fall into line now. If you know that the director of the CIA was shot by American military, has then turned her back on the deep state and has provided a great deal of information, I think if you're the FBI, you do what you need to do. That is why I think that the FBI are much more likely to start doing indictments for the Bidens. I mentioned that. I was quite careful on that because nobody else had been given that information.
I'll say his biggest claim so far is that the FBI are actually going to do their job, which will require finishing the case on the Bidens. I'm very skeptical of this, but I guess we'll see. Now, Patriots, I know what you are inclined to believe concerning the election scenario that we've been presented with. We're all naturally inclined to believe that failure is imminent, but I'm taking note of the fact that there are prominent individuals who are staking it all on the notion of overseas clandestine activities involving the U.S. military, purpose of attempting to intervene on ongoing election fraud. Now is the time for us to connect the dots ourselves and to share our findings with the wider public in order for them to be prepared for a very interesting and potentially traumatizing series of moves and counter-moves between the U.S. military and the deep state. This is crunch time. If you haven't been making any video content, I think now would be a good time to consider doing so, just to waken others who have not yet been exposed to this information. Back to Gina Haspel's alleged death. I just want to show you that on the Wikipedia page, it still shows December 1st, 2020 as the time of death. This was for a page that has not yet been updated. Now live, I'll go ahead and refresh the page to see if some other editor has gone into Wikipedia to correct that to say that she is still alive. And apparently the page has not been updated to state that she's alive, at least with this metadata. Let's go into the Wikipedia link itself. Yeah, so the metadata has not been updated. But when you go into the article itself, you see that the death has been removed, so she's still considered to be alive. Looking at these Twitter trends, I suspect that Project Veritas's exposure of CNN may be the next thing I may need to cover. I'll see you guys soon.
Do you know what my dad used to say? His granddaughters have one important job: take care of their pop. The most important one.
Okay, can the gentleman with the baby, could you guys come over?